We're talking Godzilla -1 today, currently playing at the theater. So here's your one and only spoiler warning, because, of course, it's Gene and Roger. And our friend Tyken is back with us today.
Yes, Tyken.
And so let's jump right in. Currently playing at the theater. Gene, where are you at with this one?
Yeah, this movie, I did some research on it. It's the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise. So this franchise has been very successful. Yeah, they churn out movies, and I've watched a bunch of these 37s of them, and they just run the gamut of just ridiculous. There's this Godzilla one where he's like a robot, from the 70s, I think, which is actually kind of fun. But this movie compares really well, I think, to the original. And this movie is great. It's just really great. There's a lot of it, I like to think about movies and their themes and what are they trying to tell us. And this movie gets into some pretty heavy stuff that are especially relevant to the era that we are in right now. So, yeah, I would like this movie. Definite recommendation.
Awesome. Tyken, welcome back to our little show.
Thank you.
What are you thinking about Godzilla -1?
So as far as movies in 2023, I would say this is the best movie of 2023. And it's not by a short rope, it's by a long mile, in my honest opinion. And like Gene said, it covers major themes of different variety of the human experience, human resiliency, survivor's guilt, post-traumatic stress syndrome, giant temper tantrum lizards. I mean, what more can you ask for? As far as Godzilla movies go, I would say this is the second best Godzilla movie comparison. The best Godzilla movie still, it's got to be the 1990s New York invasion Godzilla.
Oh my God, get out
of here. Still the best.
That's Wacky Tyken, of course. Yeah,
Wacky Tyken. Americans don't know how to do Godzilla.
They actually really don't know how to do Godzilla.
The Americans have no idea how to do Godzilla correctly.
Right, and so I'm in complete agreement with Tyken and Gene here. This absolutely is the best film of the year. It is a complete shock that it's a Godzilla film, and it's the greatest film of the entire year. And if the Academy Award has any credibility at all, they will be nominating this for Best Picture for 2023.
It better be getting the Oscar for
Best
Picture
it the
2023.
statue. And what I would say to people who, it's just another Godzilla movie. This is a Godzilla movie that if you've never seen a Godzilla movie, or if you have and were like, that was stupid, this is a real film with real themes like Gene mentioned. We're going to get into spoiler territory about the general plot. Gene, go.
Well, it's really just the movie revolves around three characters. And really, it's kind of all you need. There's Kochi. The movie starts in the end of World War II, and he's a kamikaze pilot, but he decides not to do it. So he returns to an air base, and he is actually a highly skilled pilot, and he's a highly skilled shot with guns. And so he has a lot of shame just that he didn't accomplish his mission, because Japan at that time was extremely nationalistic, and the whole theme of, self-sacrifice, dying for your country, dying for your emperor was huge. That's just what it was back then. And so he had a lot of shame from that. And the movie gets into a lot of that shame and plus at the beginning, from the Hiroshima and Nagasaki blast, that's the genesis of Godzilla, right? Mm-hmm. So Godzilla comes up, and it's like baby Godzilla. He's little, he's very nimble, he's very agile, and there's an opportunity and the baby comes up to the airbase and is just wiping it out and kills all the ground crew. And there's this one guy, he tells Kochi to get into your plane, and then we'll kind of lure Godzilla in front of the plane, and you blast him with the 20 millimeter cannons. And he says a line that the 20 millimeter cannons can destroy anything. And so he gets into the plane, which is pretty lethal. We gets into the plane, and they line up for the perfect shot. But does he take the shot? He doesn't take the shot. So that gives him a lot of guilt throughout the movie, is that, maybe he had an opportunity to terminate this thing at the very beginning, which he didn't take.
And Gene, real quick, I do also like how the film starts 2 days before the end of the war. And so there's also that
very,
layer
very end.
Where they're still sending young men out there to kill themselves for a completely lost cause as well. So I really liked that part.
Yeah, it's that whole hugely nationalistic thing, is that he had to give his life, but he decided not to. Yeah, and so I like then the war ends, and then he goes back home to Tokyo. Of course, is totally destroyed. He finds his parents are dead, and then there's his neighbor who's just crazy woman, you
Crazy,
know?
absolutely nuts.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of blames him for the defeat, you know, because he finds out there he's a kamikaze pilot. It's like, oh, it's your fault we lost, which is kind of a similar thing that happened in Germany at the end of World War II. That people blamed Luftwaffe pilots for their like blamed them for the loss of the war. But he finds this woman who had found this baby. The baby was orphaned, this young woman who was orphaned herself. And so somehow they all come together and they form a new family, and you follow this family, and all of a sudden we have this little family drama going on here. And where's Godzilla? There's no Godzilla. But it's okay because you're involved in this drama and you're seeing how people are trying to put their lives back together.
Go ahead.
This is one of the moments, and so when it comes to Godzilla movies, it's like I said at the very intro, is that I like to see big lizard have giant temper tantrum around the city. But this is the only time where I was really focused on following the human characters, where I actually had an interest in the human characters. Because the writing for the human characters were just absolutely amazing. And I wanted these people to survive. Never in a Godzilla movie have I thought, wow, I really want this actor or this actress to live because I really like them. No, I usually want to see them get atomic breathed out of existence.
Right. This is definitely the first Godzilla movie where they really took extreme care in developing these characters, getting you to understand them, getting you to like them. Most Godzilla films, they're just
fodder.
They're just doing some wacky thing or whatever, and it doesn't matter, right? Because you're just waiting for Godzilla to show up. And just like Gene said, you're invested in these characters. And I also like the fact that we enter into a world that I can't remember ever really seeing before on screen, which is the immediate after effects of post-war Japan, where they're in the bombed-out Tokyo, and they have to like cobble together this random shack out of stuff that they find and things like that. And I've never seen that in a film before, and so I really liked that as well.
And again,
go ahead. I'm
sorry. And again, you know, it just shows so much attention to detail when it comes to the setting of this, which some movies, previous 2023, did not. Adhere to this historical element. It's amazing that a movie about Godzilla is more historically accurate than some other movies.
Right.
Well, so Godzilla does exist. I mean, we all know
of course,
that.
yeah.
Of course, he exists.
Didn't you read in the history books in high school the post-war Japan?
Yeah. So
Godzilla.
Yeah, right. It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff with the historical accuracy. Like, I don't know, World War II buff myself, but the Zero fighters that they used, and just that Kochi Noriko is the woman and the little baby is Akio. But it's great to see them come together, and I really appreciate this neighbor character we just mentioned. At first she was very blameful of Kochi, but then she turns into this aunt-like character, and she becomes really tied into the Kochi Noriko Akio family. And she's taking care of Akiko a lot with Noriko. And so as Kochi makes it all happen because he finds a job on a minesweeper of all things, using his skills as a good shot to destroy Japanese and American mines that are still floating close to Japan. So he turns out to be really successful at that, firing a heavy machine gun at these mines to detonate them. Whereas partners can't somehow make the shot, he can make the shot, which makes sense that he was a good pilot. And so he makes his family work, and this works. You're following the family drama. So a few years pass, I think it's 1947 before Godzilla kind of reappears. And there's an American nuclear bomb test in the Bikini Atoll, which actually happened. A huge bomb, and Americans placed a lot of derelict World War II ships they didn't need anymore, and they just blew them all up. And so this, I think, kind of reawakened Godzilla, or it gave him additional strength, because when he came back, he was much bigger.
Yeah, no, that's the whole game with Godzilla, right? You feed him that radiation, he likes that stuff.
Yeah. I just really love Godzilla in this movie in comparison to all the Godzillas. I don't know if we want to get into a segment of talking about Godzilla yet.
I'm perfectly fine talking
Yeah.
about one of the great things about this film, and Gene alluded to it earlier, is this brings Godzilla back to his roots of being an agent of absolute terror and fear. And there
Right.
are sequences in this movie where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazingly awesome because I'm actually afraid of Godzilla.
Yeah,
Because,
same thing.
you know, Godzilla goes through this evolution where in the first 3 or 4 movies, he's like the enemy. And then he kind of turns into like this hero. And then
Right, because he fights the other monster.
The
right,
other
and then he, you know,
monsters.
little kids like him, and so he turns out to be this defender of kids and all this
Peace
stuff.
and justice.
And then as you get into some of the 90s era ones, he kind of starts turning bad again, but not bad to the humans. He's just this feared thing, but now he's back to this force of nature that you must fear. And that sequence on the boat, when he's trying to get that boat, is
Right, which is
awesome.
reminiscent of what movie?
right. Right. But, and
Yeah,
more terrifying than the Jaws.
Yeah, it's more terrifying
because
than
he's
Jaws,
like,
right.
He's like way bigger. It's just a beautiful sequence when he starts to show back up again.
I think the most terrifying aspect of Godzilla in this movie for me was his eyes. His eyes were horrifying because you could definitely see well, you're going to screw with me, I'm going to screw you harder look in his eyes. Especially in the first sequence, I actually was horrified of Godzilla when he was just ripping through the mechanics because he bit the mechanics and threw them. He didn't even eat them.
Right,
It wasn't
no,
even worth eating. He was
just a
doing
force
it
of
for
destruction.
sports.
He's just throwing them.
Yeah, just throwing them. So it's more like he's not doing this to survive. He's doing it because he can. He knows he can. So why not? So Koji not shooting the gun, even if he did shoot the 20 millimeter, it would have done nothing.
And you learn later on that it wouldn't have made any bit of
It would have
difference.
made a
It
difference.
would have made it, but he didn't know that at the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of brings up I think the essential theme of Godzilla is that, Godzilla in its origin, and the whole message of Godzilla is basically, and the message of this movie is really it's a rejection of that nationalistic idea of self-sacrifice. Because one of the better parts of the movie is when the scientist, who was actually a member of the Minesweeper crew with Kochi, and they just thought he was a regular guy. He turns out to be this great
This
scientist.
really awesome
so he
scientist,
invents
right.
this way to destroy Godzilla, and they have to couple it's just like a popular movement to get rid of Godzilla because the governments of the United States can't help because they come up with an idea that the United States can't help because they don't want to provoke Russia, which is right over there, which kind of makes sense because there was that the Cold War was just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought up the idea is that a lot of the people didn't want to participate and go on these destroyers to fight Godzilla because it's like, during the war, our lives meant nothing. And, the scientists brought out the ideas that, no, we reject that idea. We reject the idea that of sacrifice for your country. No, is that individual lives actually matter. Your lives actually matter. And so Godzilla, it's a really strong anti-war theme,
Mm-hmm.
And I think from the very beginning, back to the original Godzilla Roger was talking about, it's a reflection of that country's anti-war sentiment, and it's just a reflection of just the theme of just like war in itself, because Godzilla comes through this city and is destroying things and almost kills Noriko, so you really feel for that. And then Noriko ends up saving Kochi's life. And it's just like there's no purpose for this Godzilla creature to come into this city and just wipe it out. All these people are dying for what reason? There's no reason at all. This creature has no purpose. There's no goal. There's nothing. And that's a lot. We look at wartime even today. I brought up earlier, like the war in Ukraine. What is that thing about? It's just some guy decided to attack Ukraine for some Russian nationalistic reason. And like the Middle East, those things have been going on for 1,000 years. But again, what's the end game there? I don't know. It's like I dare anybody to tell me what the end game of that war is. It's just a lot of people dying, And what's really going on here? What's the purpose of all
Well,
this?
and I do like the fact that at the beginning of this film as well, they do really hammer home the effects on the general populace of this war.
Right.
The child that Noriko has was
Yeah,
basically given to her by the dying parents who were dying from the air raid of the Allies, right? And the fighter pilot guy comes back home and he gets blamed for his parents' death by the neighbor.
Right.
You know, because the bombing had burned out the house and stuff like that. And that's really it. You've got these powerful people making these decisions and treating the general populace as well as their own military as fodder. We've seen it all throughout time.
Right.
And it happens regularly.
I just
Yes,
really
it does.
love the whole dynamic again between Kochi. Sorry, I'm trying to read your list here. Because
I wrote down the names.
Kochi, Noriko, and Akio, and even the aunt. Because you're right, the aunt did blame Kochi for not fulfilling his duty. Because the moment that he did arrive in Tokyo, she essentially lost her 3 children, and once once she discovered Akio and am I saying Akiko? Sorry, Akiko. She gained this new motivation to persevere. Right. And for Kochi, his own personal journey of trying to forgive himself during wartime, not fulfilling the duty he was supposed to, and also having the effects of survivor's guilt for living through the maintenance incident. It's really a powerful thing, which is one of the biggest reasons why he could not find himself to marry Noriko during the time, because he felt like he is a dead man living a living body right now. So he doesn't feel like he deserved any reason to have any joy and happiness, right? And the beautiful thing about his own journey is that he was able to finally come to terms with what occurred during wartime efforts and who he is now. And my God, this is the only Godzilla movie where I actually cried because it was so freaking powerful. I shed so many tears.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
especially
Making it happen.
Especially when Noriko dies.
Yeah, it's big plot spoiler there.
Sorry. And Akiko is crying her eyeballs out because she actually knows that she's dead, and she started wailing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So, moments like that, and when it was discovered that actually, another big spoiler. I guess the Gina Rogers show is spoilers.
Right,
Anyway,
okay.
We've given ample warnings.
Right,
And talk about the movie.
And Noriko actually did survive, and she says, "Is your war over?" And he's like, "Yeah, my war is over now."
Well, and that's interesting because when you see Noriko get hit.
I would thought
in
she was
the
done.
blast of, because of course Godzilla is all about his big super laser breath or whatever the heck. And there is a great sequence where Godzilla is like, okay, enough of this. I'm just going to go for it. And he just terminates this entire city.
Right.
And she pushes
Kochi
out of the way and gets, in a really nice effect, she gets lifted right up and off she goes. She's gone.
The blast wave picture.
And you assume she's dead, and they go through a period of mourning there, like Tyken said, with the young girl recognizing that, my mom is not coming back.
Which was some good acting by the little girl. Like you can just tell she's just trying so hard.
Right. But just to back up your point of kind of feeling the emotions of this film and being so invested in the characters is, when it turns out she made it through at the end and they can reunite, I can see how people can get choked up or teared up or whatever. That's the level of greatness of this film, which is why it should be nominated for an Academy Award. Because you're so invested in the characters. And I was overjoyed that not only is Kochi's war over, he's kind of reunited with this woman, and they're going to get married and have a family and things, although she is kind of experiencing the effects of radiation sickness.
Which they give you a clue at the end, which makes sense because a lot of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki survivors developed leukemia and died in the 50s, just a few years later.
Right.
Can we talk about that atomic breath scene, though?
Sure.
That was the most amazing atomic breath I've ever seen in a Godzilla movie.
When he destroyed the destroyer or the city?
When he destroyed the city. So atomic breath, I think it's an atomic bomb, and this is the first time I was just shocked about how They literally brought the definition of atomic bomb because it doesn't just stop when Godzilla shoots off the atomic
Right.
bomb. There's this massive effect to that after effect, blowing. Oh, geez, I forgot her name again. Blowing
Noriko.
Noriko right out of the scene. I fully believed she was dead there. There was
Oh, yeah.
no one part of me that thought, oh, she may have survived.
No, I
But
didn't.
the atomic breath scene was phenomenal.
They really did a great job with it. The one in Shin Godzilla, if you remember that one,
Yes, I do.
was also really amazing
That was
when
pretty
he
good,
just
too.
went off.
Only
in that
Japan
one.
knows how to make a Godzilla movie.
Oh, right. No question about it. I mean, I don't have a problem with two of the American Godzilla films, Godzilla King of the Monsters and then Kong versus Godzilla, but they're completely different situations.
Completely.
Right. It's like they're trying to
that
make an
Godzilla's
MCU.
kind of a hero.
Right.
Yeah.
More of an action, Marvel superhero thing.
Yeah, so you can sell lots of toys.
She should just, they should just put a cape on him at this point.
Yeah, but this movie works. It's I don't know. Does it get a little sentimental? Maybe a tiny little bit. But this movie overall it just totally works. And at the end, of course, Japanese planes in World War II were not equipped with ejection seats, as pretty much all World War II planes were, except at the very, very end. And this plane, and at the end that Kochi is flying, he kind of flies it into Godzilla's mouth. And of course, you're thinking, he talks about his plan that he's going to finally complete his kamikaze mission. But he flies it into Godzilla's mouth, and there's an ejection sheet. This plane, which was actually an authentic Japanese World War II design, he flies it into the Godzilla's mouth, detonates it, but he ejects right before
Right.
he goes into the mouth. And and that's part of the reason why Godzilla is destroyed at the end. Or quote unquote destroyed.
Right.
It's got to have the it's got to have the cliffhanger.
Well, of course.
I really love that whole initiating the plan scene. This is actually one of the scenes. So my wife and I went to watch this movie in theaters, and she hates anything that's subbed. Right? She doesn't like sub things. Well, this is one.
Doesn't like what things?
She doesn't like anything that's subbed.
Subtitled.
Subtitles.
Oh,
no
subtitles.
Yeah, she does not like subtitles. She does not like reading subtitles.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Tiger.
but she loved it. I mean, I'm getting to where I'm trying to get to. That scene where they're pulling the destroyer so they can lift Godzilla back up, because she lived in Southeast Alaska with all these boaters, all the sailors, right? And that's actually what they do in real life when they call out each boat. That's like a ceremony they have in Petersburg, Alaska. And so she also teared up really hard in that scene because it was actually extremely accurate to what actual sailors do and calling off their boats. So,
Okay.
And when it comes to the scene with Kochi self-sacrificing kamikaze, I actually did believe at first he did actually do the kamikaze mission. Because if he say that he actually did do the kamikaze mission, that would actually be a good fulfillment of his character. I'm glad he did the ejection, but either way, I would have been okay with the ending of his character.
Well, I think if he had done that, it would have kind of like short-circuited everything that he had built, because he had worked so hard to keep his family unit together. And so his character development arc it makes more sense that he ejects, he saves himself. And again, it's that whole idea of rejection of the nationalistic idea of you got to sacrifice yourself for a bigger cause, and sometimes war is really black and white. World War II was clearly like that. You had to defeat Germany, imperialistic Japan, period, but sometimes it can get really fuzzy. And so his saving his own life was kind of reinforced that idea that individual lives matter, and individual lives should be part of the equation when political leaders want to start these conflicts.
And Godzilla did not like that plane. It was not tasty at all.
But I also think, though, the ejecting seat is a deeper theme there because, of course, who installed it for him?
The engineer.
The lone surviving engineer from the attack that occurred at the beginning of the film, who had been blaming Kochi again for allowing all of his fellow soldiers to get killed by Godzilla. And so that overriding theme of forgiveness and understanding what was really going on from your government, sending these young men out to die for no reason.
Yeah.
The war was over, and there was no reason to keep doing this, yet you were gladly doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yep.
just
2
a
days
beautiful
before it
thing.
ended.
So like Tyken, had he actually not ejected himself, I actually think it would have lessened what the overall theme of this film is. And so I'm glad that he did.
Yes. Yeah, to
No.
see his parachute at the end.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Just
good.
just to clarify, I'm not saying that I would rather him died in the kamikaze. I'm just saying that if they were to take the alternate path, it would have still made sense because he's not sacrificing for Japan. He's sacrificing for his comrades, his family to
Yeah.
live.
Sure, and his family, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I really do love how Kochi dragged the engineer out of hiding by saying, "Hey, it's actually all your fault.
Right,
The
yeah.
mechanics died, not mine. I'm perfect. You killed them all." And he's like, "What the hell, man?
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm gonna beat you with a pipe now."
Right. Yeah. No, it's an interesting way to try to get a hold. But it also showed there too how people trying to find their loved ones or their friends at the end of the war there and the aftermath, the years after, there was how do you even get a hold of people? How do you even know if they're still alive? Right.
Yeah, that's really tough
The
too.
cities were bombed out, and it's like we don't
Records
even
were
know.
lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And
People,
so
I'm sure that person at that office was sincerely trying, but there's no
Right.
info.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely don't think he was just trying to get him out of the office. It's because, post-war Japan was such a ruin at the time. How
Right.
could you possibly find anyone
Yeah.
during it was pure luck and probably vengeance that reunited Kochi and the engineer back together again.
Well, and I just think, that's why I'm also really liking this movie so much is it's taken me into a world that I never really saw
Yeah,
on the big
right.
screen before, maybe some film clips here or there, usually of the after effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but not just regular person going back to Tokyo after a massive bombing at the end of the war. And here's how
Yeah.
you have to live your life, and here's kind of what was going on during that time.
Because post-World War II, especially in post-World War II, Japan is mostly overlooked because it's more like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, let's go to Cold War. But they don't talk about the in-betweens
Right.
of the post-war rebuilding of Japan and the lead up to the Cold War.
Yeah.
At least I don't feel like it's really taught in classes.
So the other thing we need to talk about with this film, though, is one of the other reasons it is the best film of the year, the budget.
Oh
$15
yes,
million is what it cost to bring this movie to the big screen.
See, does the movie need to cost $150 million?
Right.
that's
Right.
the
right.
really
Somebody
brilliant
needs
question.
to talk to James Cameron or Ridley Scott.
Someone needs to talk
or
to Disney.
Just anybody, really, because this director shows that if
Right.
you've got a good story, good actors, you can make a powerful, amazing film that can stand up to any Hollywood blockbuster.
I
Yeah.
100% agree. It just makes me wonder, especially with Disney, MCU, Star Wars, et cetera, how they could put so much money into a film, Marvels, and it just bombs. It's horrible. So
I think
they must make it with AI or something as writing.
Yeah, we brought this up before for like in the horror movie genre, and this movie Godzilla. I mean, is it really horror?
I was
Sure,
terrified.
why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife went with me, and my two kids, and my wife really liked this movie. And so so
How did your kids handle it?
the kids loved it. Of
Okay,
course, they
great.
loved this movie. So it is a bonus and plus on all counts here. But yeah, you could tell like in watching this movie that the scenes in Japan that the sets were kind of small.
Mm-hmm.
But did it not work? No, it worked great. It was fine.
You're invested in the characters.
That
that's what
suspension of
matters.
disbelief works, and you're there, and you can tell, and you could tell that the scenes of like the cruisers and the destroyers, they look like models, but still, you can go with that. I mean, is it like cheesy? No, it's not.
I mean, I wouldn't say
you
it's
can
cheesy
go.
at all. I
No,
mean,
it's not cheesy at all.
I feel like in the classic 80s movies, but again, I'm going with Star Wars and Alien, a lot of that's models, but it looks incredibly realistic for the time. Even now, they're using models. I much rather them use models than use CGI to make architecture or vessels by far. Because you can shoot it in a way where it actually looks realistic.
Yeah, and that's a lot of movies. They're over reliant on CGI, and especially in horror movies lately, and it just kind of wrecks the movie.
Right.
You got a good horror It's got to have a great story. It's got to have likable characters because you got to be invested in the movie and you want your character to survive. And so
Right.
this movie succeeds in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think Hollywood needs to take note of this film and how you can have a realistic budget that's not going to break the bank, because this movie's already a huge hit primarily because it only cost $15 million to make.
Yeah.
And it's the care that goes in from the directors, the screenwriters, cinematographers, everyone else. They cared about this product. It wasn't
Yeah.
a Marvel movie where they're to the point now where it's just, let's churn another one out.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
We don't care. This is a group of filmmakers that were like, we care about this character, we care about our characters, and we want to present a great film. And who would have thought Godzilla number 37
Yeah.
is the best in the series, right? And it's just an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah,
I honestly
but
think. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, so I was going to say sorry though, but Roger, I have no faith in the Academy. This
Likewise.
movie has no chance of winning any kind of. I think I read that I think it's up for like best visual effects, but I think this movie has no chance of being nominated for Best Picture, and if it was, it's got zero chance of winning. That's just how the Academy rolls, and I have no faith in them to make the right decisions. Especially, I just got to go back to Roger's favorite. When Crash won, it's like when that movie won.
Wait, Crash won?
Crash won Academy Award Best Picture. I forget the year, but as soon as Jack Nicholson announced that, I'm just like, I'm done. It's over. I don't even know what to say. But anyway, it doesn't take away from this movie at all. So it's great. I would definitely recommend this movie.
Well, I really do hope the Academy recognizes. I mean, if nothing else, at least
Yes.
best foreign language film.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that would be cool.
But it's legitimately. I mean, for anyone listening to this podcast, forget about what you've heard about Godzilla movies.
Yes.
This is a legit film that needs to be seen. It is amazing. Tyken,
amazing.
last word on it.
We've been talking about Godzilla for a while right now, and I still don't think we covered everything.
No.
Because there's just so much to
There's a lot,
encompass.
yeah.
I think to do a really full in-depth review, we had to be here for like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But to summarize everything, I do firmly believe that it is the best movie of 2023, hands down. And
Yeah.
between the years 2000 to 2023, and I'm thinking of movies like Top Gun Maverick, Mission Impossible, Godzilla, the really tops of these films between these last 3 years, because there has been extremely good film years for the past 3 years, in my opinion. I would say this is better than Top Gun Maverick.
Well, of course it is.
I
I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, but I know it's
Right.
better already.
I mean, I really feel like as far as these movies goes, Godzilla is probably on my number one list of best movies of these last 3 years. Probably one of the best movies of all time in my book.
Well,
I think it's
Okay,
really
well,
that.
I don't know about that, but
it's definitely on my list of top 100 greatest films of
I
all time.
definitely
for sure.
believe it. I really hope this does get awarded for an Academy Award, because it absolutely should. The only slight hope that I would be awarded, because movies like Everything Everywhere in Between All at Once got nominated, or movies like Parasite got nominated as well, which is Korean, a Korean horror film or Korean drama. So it makes me
did
believe
Parasite win?
Parasite did win.
Parasite won.
Best Picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope there's going to be the slight the Academy Awards will do the right thing. But like you said, Jane, there's no way you can actually trust anything those guys say, because I can particularly say that, the best movie award goes to the Marvels or something ridiculous like that, right?
Well, that's not going to happen.
No,
but-
it definitely won't happen.
And it's like we all kind of said, it shows a part of history that's never really been shown before in the big screens. Anyone that has a pulse should absolutely go to the theaters and watch this. It is worth the watch. And I cannot say more praises about this Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong by going to watch this movie. I'll probably watch it 4 or 5 more times at this rate.
Yeah, the one thing I always talk about is your best movie length time is around 83 minutes. This thing's 2 hours and 5 minutes long.
It rolls that.
But it seems like it's 83 minutes. Let's put it that way. So you're so invested in the characters and what's going on. The visuals, the times Godzilla shows up are terrifying. You really care for the characters. So 2 hours and 5 minutes well spent. So I'm giving this one a pass on its runtime.
Yeah, so it's good stuff. yeah. So
Yeah,
I recommend it.
definitely run out and see it. I don't think we've had a movie that we have universally praised as much as this one. Well worth your time. Please go see it. But now we're at the difficult part of the episode. Gene, what the heck are we doing next week?
I have no idea what we're doing.
So,
well, you go ahead.
I mentioned Evil Dead 2. We need
We did talk
to
about
get
Evil
that
Dead
one
2.
in.
Because that is a classic in the genre. Yeah.
And
So I guess
we haven't done any movie with our buddy Bruce Campbell in it, so we probably should do one.
okay. Let's Evil Dead 2 will be next week.
But
Because it's on streaming platforms all over the place.
I'm
yeah.
sure it is.
Yeah.
So we'll once again, we're going to do something. It's maybe going to be Evil Dead 2, but who knows? It's Gene and Roger. Tyken, thanks so much for joining us
thanks for
today.
joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Last word, go see this movie, please. You will not be disappointed. We are out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye.